Governments around the world, as Beatrice has pointed out, have condemned the military crackdown in Egypt, but that has done little to stop the death toll from mounting. Joining me now with reaction from the Canadian government is Deepak Oberoi. Deepak is the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he joins me from Calgary. Thanks for taking time to speak with us today, Deepak.
Thank you. Yes, it's a very serious situation in Egypt.
Absolutely, and it becomes even more of a situation that we at home are paying attention to, as a Canadian resident has been killed during the violence that is ongoing in Egypt. What do you know about this man who was killed there?
Well, at this current time, we are investigating the circumstances of what is happening. Our embassy over there will follow up with the Egyptian authorities, and we'll be in touch with the family to see what kind of consular services the government can provide.
At this stage of the game, the relationship that Canada has with Egypt has been long, no question about that. But given the fact that we have an interim government that came to power via coup, what right now is the official position of the Canadian government?
Well, we are first calling for the stop of violence. We are extremely appalled at what is taking place, the loss of innocent lives in Egypt. We are calling for dialogue, and dialogue is the only way they will move forward. And so we are calling on the interim government to be responsible and start the dialogue process. However, responsibility also rests on the other side as well. But most importantly, it is very critically important that Egypt return to the democratic process so all Egyptians can participate in the future of this country. We are extremely, extremely concerned and appalled at this violence that is taking place.
Deepak, the fact that Egypt was supposedly on the road to a more democratic form of government, that seems to have been subverted by the efforts of the military with the ouster of Mr. Morsi. What right now can Canada do to help the international community come together to speak to Egypt so that they can get back on the road to democracy, if that's even possible, based on what's going on at this time?
Well, you said rightly, we are very much concerned that this violence will become a deterrent to moving towards a quick return to democracy. As soon as there was a change of government, Canada called for a quick return to democracy with a timeline, and we noticed the interim government had given a timeline to go back to democracy. But with this violence that is taking place, an escalation is, in our view, absolutely contrary and will be deterrent to return to democracy very quickly. The best way, of course, peaceful course in the region is a quick return to democracy.
I don't want to paint either side as being at fault in this, because at the end of the day, there are no saints or devils on either side. There's a mixture of both. But if there's no internal dialogue taking place in Egypt, how can Canada and the international community hope to foster a dialogue when this thing seems to show no signs of abating?
Well, we are calling for restraint, and we are calling for common sense to prevail over there, and we are calling for both sides. It is in the interest of both sides to go back to dialogue. The Muslim Brotherhood will not gain anything, neither will the interim government gain anything if they do not return back to the table and bring all parties to dialogue. We are even concerned about violence against Christians, minorities over there. So, the view of Canada is that everybody should be at the table as quickly as possible, and we are working with our international allies to put that kind of pressure onto Egypt.
Right now, for the most part, this is being termed a civil disturbance in Egypt. Are there worries at the governmental level that this could develop into a civil war?
Well, we hope that there is restraint from the government. We hope there is restraint from the Muslim Brotherhood so that they don't spiral towards a civil war. A civil war is of advantage to no one. It will do nothing for Egypt or for the local Egyptians or for anyone. So it is very quickly that they return back to dialogue. And, while I keep saying returning back to dialogue, that is the only way it will move forward. You cannot have marginalization taking place in a society and then expect peace to be in a society.
Deepak, it's clear that Egypt is the largest Arab nation in that part of the world. Do the other Arab nations have much sway over what Egypt says and does as a government going forward? Can they?
Yes, indeed they do. Many of the other Arab countries do provide a lot of money and cash to Egypt. A lot of Egyptians do work in their economies. So yes, they do have quite a big say in that, and we hope they will come out to the Arab League will very quickly come out and start the process of dialogue and be in contact with both sides, prevailing them to return back to peace. Yeah.
The Arab League has not officially stated any positions on what's going on in Egypt. Is it possible, once again, I'm looking at the West to be the leader here, to force the Arab League to take a position on Egypt to force a quicker resolution to what's going on there?
Well, I think it's in the best interest of the Arab League to see peace returns to Egypt. Like you mentioned very quickly, Egypt is a very important country in the region. And so any destabilization of Egypt will have a complete action right across the region. Therefore, it is important for the Arab League to now come and fill the void and start talking to both sides to bring them to table.
Well, let's hope that does come to fruition quite soon. I thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. That was Deepak Obadai, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.